In this video, we will discuss about management of natural resources. What exactly is a natural resource? Again. Source, origin. So the source of supply which is there in the reserve that we are getting from the Mother Earth, and this can be used for various purpose to get more and more valuable things. The various resources that we are going to discuss are land, water, fossil fuel, forest, and wildlife. Water we are using for irrigation, for producing electricity, for agriculture, for aquaculture. Fossil fuel we are using these in terms of coal, petroleum, CNG, biogas, and forest. These are the source of raw product for various industries. Now these natural resources, they can be divided into two categories. The first category is inexhaustible resources. Inexhaustible resources are those which are available in plenty, in abundance, and these cannot be exhausted. These can be recycled easily. These can be used again and again. On the other hand, exhaustible resources are limited. They takes a lot of time for their recycle, for their renewal. For example, fossil fuel. We can divide exhaustible resources into two further categories. The first category is renewable resource. These can maintain themselves by natural recycling. They can be replenished easily. For example, forest, groundwater. On the other hand, non-renewable resources, these get exhausted very soon. For example, fossil fuel, and they take millions and thousands of years for their formation. How to manage these resources? First of all, we have to adopt a policy of 5 R's. What are these 5 R's? The first R is reduce. We have to reduce the use of these natural resources. For example, if any electrical appliance is not in use, then we shouldn't waste electricity. We have to switch off immediately as soon as our work is over. Most of us are in the habit of brushing the teeth with the tap open. So, we have to close the tap when we are brushing the teeth. A large amount of water can be saved in that manner. Recycle. The used paper, used plastic, used metal, this can be recycled again to produce a new product. The third R is reuse. We can use the resource again and again. For example, the grey water. Now, what is grey water? Suppose we have washed the vegetable in a bucket that is full of water. So now that water is the grey water. We are washing our hands in the sink, and the water that is coming out through the drainage pipe is the grey water. So this type of the water that can be used for watering the plant. The next R is refuse. Unless and until there is a real need for that particular resource, then only we have to use it. Otherwise, we should refuse. In that way also, we can save a large amount of resource. And the last R is repurpose. Repurpose other than for what it was originally bought. So, using the wasted printing paper for the scrap paper, cardboard for storing the supply, like this way. all of you must have heard about the Ganga Action Plan, or say Yamuna Action Plan, or any other water body. Our government is spending crores of rupees for cleaning of these rivers. How do we come to know that water is dirty or polluted? There are certain parameters for that. The first one is the total coliform count. What is coliform? Coliform is a type of bacteria which increases in number when the water is polluted. So this count is increasing in the Ganga water, and that indicates that our river is very much polluted. The second is pH value of the water. If it is too acidic or too basic, then it is considered as polluted. The third thing, if water body is nearby industry, or I should say if any industry is set up on the bank of the water body, then we may found heavy metals in that water, and if it is near crop field, then we may found large amount of pesticide in that water. So all these indicate that our water is polluted. So now let us discuss these resources one by one. So the first resource we are going to talk about is forest and wildlife. How important these forest and wildlife for us? We are getting wood, food and spices, drugs from these forests. Roots of the trees, they hold the soil firmly. They are preventing the soil erosion. They are reducing the atmospheric pollution by absorbing many pollutants. Our forest, they are habitat for the wildlife. It's a home for them. They are moderating the temperature. They are absorbing the carbon dioxide, because we all know that they need carbon dioxide for the photosynthesis process. And they absorb the water also, and in that way they maintain the groundwater level. The area of rich biodiversity, forest, they are also known as hotspot. What are hotspot? The area of the rich biodiversity, and we have to maintain this biodiversity to maintain our ecosystem stable. Now, who are the stakeholder, or who are the people who are having interest in forest? First of all, the local people, the people who live in and around the forest. Their whole life, it depends on the forest for their requirement, whether it is their clothing or their shelter or for their livelihood. They are all dependent on the resources that they are getting from the forest, but they never overuse it. They never harm forest in any way, though they are using the resources from the forest, because it is their home, and no one like to destroy their own home, their own abode. Next stakeholder, they are the government employee who took charge of the forest, but they always ignore needs of local people. They may also convert the vast tract of the forest to monoculture. Monoculture means the same type of the crop, same type of the plant is grown in large acres of land. This is going to destroy the fertility of the soil. Industrialist people, for them, the forest, they are just the source of the raw material for their factories. They are least bothered about the sustainability. They are only interested in their profit. And the last category is wildlife enthusiast, or the NGO. They have considerable say in the management of the forest and wildlife. But again, their life is not dependent on forest. So these are the main 4 stakeholders of the forest. Suppose I'm asking you this question, that according to you, out of these 4 stakeholders, who should be the given charge of the forest? Out of these 4, who is the most accountable? I know some may say the government people, some may say NGO, uh, some may say local people. According to me, the main stakeholder of the forest should be the local people. Why? Because it is their home. They cannot destroy that. They are emotionally dependent on this. They are financially dependent on this. Out of all these four, industrialists, they are least bothered about this forest. As far as government officials are concerned, they may not have the proper knowledge about the flora and fauna of that forest. Similarly, NGOs also. For each aspect of life, NGO also, they are also not dependent on these forests. How can we rejuvenate our forest? How can we increase the forest cover? By afforestation, by reforestation. Now there is a difference between afforestation and reforestation. Afforestation is converting new area into forest, and reforestation is planting the same type of the trees on the same land on which these trees existed earlier. And the conservation of the reserve forest by making them biosphere reserve or national park, etc. Now this is a very important topic under the sustainable development. Now what exactly is sustainable development? This is a process in which decentralized economic growth and ecological conservation goes hand in hand. Means we are using the resources for development, but we are not neglecting its harmful effect on the environment. We are conserving the environment also, and when we are using the resources also in judicious way. And in this, role of local people is highly appreciable. Now let us do the efforts of the local people in this sustainable development. We are all aware of the name Amrita Devi Bishnoi. She, along with 362 followers, lost her life while protecting khejuri trees in Khujrali village in Rajasthan. They hugged the tree, and the people of the king, they cut them along with the tree. Chipko movement. Chipko movement, it was initiated in Tehri village in Garwar protected trees. And they protected the tree from cutting by a contractor. They hugged the tree all around, and that is why this movement is known as the Chipko movement. Further, this continued under the leadership of Sundarlal Bahuguna. Another example is A.K. Banerjee. Mr. A.K. Banerjee, he included the local people in rejuvenation of Arabari forest range in West Bengal. He used local people for rejuvenating the salt forest. And these forests, they underwent a remarkable recovery. Their worth increased to 25 crores. How he included the local people? He gave them job also, and he gave a percentage of the profit also. So this is a very good example that local people should be included because they are the main stakeholder of that particular forest.